U.S. President Donald Trump frequently takes to the podium to declare absolute military victory in West Asia, utilizing words like obliterated to describe the fate of his adversaries. While the administration claims a geopolitical win overseas, the reality back home tells a drastically different story. In less than 10 trading days, over $2 trillion worth of American savings simply evaporated from the stock market. That macroeconomic shock immediately hit everyday households. At the pump, fuel prices jumped 22% in less than a month. Meanwhile, U.S. mortgage rates, the baseline metric for household financial health, shot up from 5.9 to 6.4%. Financial analyst Shanker Iyer recently diagnosed this massive disconnect in a column titled Butterfly Effect: War, Private Credit, and the Next Crisis. Iyer details how the military standoff acts as a mechanical trigger for a hidden, catastrophic chain reaction tearing through the global financial system. How exactly does a localized military standoff thousands of miles away possess the mechanical power to destroy the Silicon Valley artificial intelligence boom and potentially trigger a worldwide financial meltdown? The chain reaction starts on the water. In response to U.S. military pressure, Iranian forces actively began blocking critical shipping lanes in West Asia. This map highlights the Hormuz Strait, a narrow passage between the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. It is the single most important oil choke point on the planet, with roughly 1/5 of the entire global oil supply passing directly through its waters. When that flow stops, the market reacts violently. This chart tracks the price of crude oil, showing a nearly vertical spike from under $70 a barrel to well over $100. Market projections now warn those prices are hurtling toward $150. When crude oil gets that expensive, the cost of moving physical goods skyrockets. That energy premium bakes into every step of the global supply chain, pushing up the price of everything from groceries to electronics and creating universal inflation. Faced with soaring inflation, central banks are trapped. To keep consumer prices from spiraling out of control, they have to abandon any planned interest rate cuts, leaving the cost to borrow money painfully high. A military intervention intended to project power ended up locking the domestic economy into a high-cost environment. It set a trap that is about to spring on anyone relying heavily on borrowed money. The primary victim of these punishing interest rates is an opaque $2.1 trillion shadow market known as private credit, a system where wealthy investors lend directly to companies outside traditional, highly regulated banking channels. This gated financial republic has become the engine of Silicon Valley. Tech companies rely heavily on these private loans to fund massive, off-the-books expansions without diluting their stock. Recently, a group of top-tier tech firms, collectively known as the Magnificent Seven, took on a staggering $600 billion in debt. Their singular goal was to rapidly build out the massive servers and data centers required for artificial intelligence. As these companies loaded up on physical infrastructure, the financial scale tipped drastically. Firms historically celebrated for being agile and flush with cash suddenly became sluggish, asset-heavy, and remarkably cash-poor. Now, the economic shockwaves from the West Asia conflict crash directly into that mountain of AI debt. Surging interest rates make those loans incredibly expensive to service, instantly crushing expected returns. The pressure is triggering outright panic on Wall Street. As investors desperately try to pull their money out of these private credit funds, titans like Morgan Stanley and Cliffwater have been forced to cap redemptions, literally preventing people from taking their cash out. The AI revolution relied on a fragile foundation of cheap debt rather than liquid cash, a foundation the West Asia conflict just violently shattered. Iyer warns that while history doesn't always repeat, it frequently rhymes. Looking closely at past financial crashes reveals exactly how dangerous this current moment is. The 2026 AI debt load looks eerily similar to the dot-com bubble of 1999. In both cases, investors poured billions into building massive technological infrastructure, fiber optic cables then, AI processing units now, betting that consumer revenue would eventually follow to pay for it all. The infrastructure got built, but the revenue stayed stuck. The mechanical triggers of today also directly mirror the 2008 financial crash. That crisis was fueled by identical ingredients: a spike in crude oil to $147 a barrel, an overseas war, and a heavily leveraged, entirely opaque credit market failing under the pressure of higher interest rates. To understand what happens next, we have to look at a concept popularized by J.P. Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon, known as the cockroach theory. The theory states that if you see one cockroach in the light, there are dozens more hiding in the dark. The visible panic and capped redemptions at massive firms like Blackstone suggest there are vastly more defaults lurking unseen throughout the financial system. Ayar attributes this brewing storm to imperious immediacy. It is the political habit of pursuing short-term, aggressive geopolitical victories, while actively ignoring the grave, systemic risks those actions create. The geopolitical maneuvering in West Asia carries a direct domestic price tag: evaporated savings, unpayable mortgages, and the erosion of basic financial security for everyday citizens.